Alright, so we're going to quickly learn how to do this. So a little damage meter you see at the bottom left. See, start hitting, starts updating. If I stop hitting, obviously goes down because it goes back up, etc, etc. Alright. I'm also going to show you, you can see these are summarized numbers with a K at the end, and then I can turn them off, use small damage numbers off, and it just uses a comma separated values. Right. Pretty much all we're going to do. Oh, let's get to it. I'm not going to go through it, so you can. I'm just going to give you the overall of what everything is, because or this video is going to take like 30 minutes. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, so there's a struct for DPS meter event, so it takes in the how much damage you did for that attack and what ability took that attack. Pretty much all that is. Combat session, this stores the whole combat session, so this is what gives you the DPS, right? It gives you start and end time, which in turn gives you DPS. Turn gives you DPS, yeah. For this one, you really have to do the operator equal, because we're gonna pass this as an array into a T map, so required. So remember, struct DPS meter combat session, overload the equal operator, and then you also need this very important function. You force inline, you in get type hash, you pass in your struct, and then you mem crc32, you pass in your struct, and the size of the struct, and you return the hash. Right? And make sure you pause and copy. If you have questions, you can ask in the comments. But everything's going to be commented, so there should be any questions. We need these 3 delegates. Meter updated, session started, and session ended. And this is the actual subsystem, right? So subsystems, they just get, as soon as you create them and you add them to your project, they're already in there, so you don't have to add it anywhere else. As soon as you create it, it will, you compile, it will get added when my game instance starts, this will get it started, right? And you can pause or whatever. We'll go a little bit over in the C++ side, because that's where all the information is, right? Going slowly so you can copy. Here, as you can see, you can do more. So not only damage done, but you can do damage taken, healing taken, or healing done. And then when you need to create these tags, and you need to create these tags. Like you can go into your tags. Default gameplay tags, I think. You can see it's right there. You just add tag, or you can add it from inside the engine. Same thing. Combat session timeout. Combat timeout is how long. We'll go over it in this. All right. Okay. So you can read the comments if you're having trouble understanding. We set this DPS meter tick to tick every 0.1 instead of every tick, because we don't need to tick it every frame. There's no point. And here we just clear the timer. This DPS meter tick, and you can comment, make it bigger so you can. Right. Register abilities component. So you call this inside your character or wherever you want. So you can see in begin play, I'll register EPS meter subsystem. I get my ability system component. I get the game instance, and then I get the subsystem. And then I just call register ASC with the new ASC. That's how you register one. It doesn't matter if you put your ability system component is in your player state or in your character. Mine's in my player state, but I can still, since this is an interface, it will give me the correct ability system component if you implemented it correctly. Alright, and then you unregister it. Thing. Start a new session. Call try start new session. End current session. This. A little note, you should be saving these sessions to disk instead of storing them in memory, but I haven't done that yet, so you can do that later. So this happens when gameplay effect is executed to yourself, so whenever you take damage or whenever you heal, this will get called. Obviously we're not doing that yet, so that's why it's commented out. And this is when you do damage to a target or healing to a target, right? And here's where we call process damage event. And here we're actually checking the tags that we talked about. So if it has a damage tag, that means we did damage. If it has a healing tag, that means we healed someone. Right? Pretty much it. The comment pretty much describes everything. We try to start a new session. So if there's already a section active, we stop it, then we start a new session. So this would only really trigger if you're manually setting sessions. But you don't have to call end session. You just call start session. Start session instead of figuring out when to end the session, right? Alright, get session timeout. So this just checks if the last damage event is was 10 seconds away, right? So you can change that number, whatever you want, that variable down here. Combat timeout, so mine's set to 10 seconds. Seconds without damage to end combat, right? This just get current DPS. There's just how to calculate DPS, right? Total damage divided by duration. Well, really. This returns a combat session given the ASC, so you pass in the ASC, it gives you the combat session for that ASC. Well, all the combat sessions for that ASC, not just one. And then you can get one session from all of them by passing in this function, right? You pass a reference to that, to one of the indexes from this array. And then same thing gives you the end start time, get the DP. Here, where you process the damage event. Again, we try to start a new session if we don't have one or not active or whatever. And then this is how we're adding, so we get a reference, right? So we get the last session. So the last session is usually literally the only one that will be active ever. And we get a reference to it, we modify it, right? We plus equal the magnitude, which is the damage done. And then we just add a new damage event. So a new damage event pair with, this is the time, this is the damage and the ability to do the damage. Then we use broadcast on meter, right? So you can go over that. Make sure you pause and double check everything. And make sure you call register in your character or your player state, wherever you have your ability system component done. Okay. Then you have to make sure so this is my damage base. You have to go into components, asset tags, and make sure you add that asset tag to add to inherited, right? Or they won't get, like, they won't have the tag, so they won't get processed. The effects won't get processed. And then here on my player character, I'm manually handling the session, and I'm starting and then ending on a key press. If you don't manually handle it, it will start as soon as you hit something, and it will end 10 seconds after you stop hitting something. Okay, and then the UI. So this is the panel. PS meter panel. This is just a container pretty much for, so you can keep adding more. So more users, you can procedurally add more if you want. I only have one. My game single player, so only need one. This is the slot. There's nothing here, by the way. Just a container. And this is the slot. I'm gonna go over everything. You can pause it if you need. And this is the total damage, separation, and then the DPS. So this 0 takes care of total damage, DPS, and this is just a visual separation of numbers. Then we go here on construct, we bind all the events, so all the delegates that we created in our DPS meter. Now to get this, you just do, and it's the ping function. And then a new session started. So when a new session starts, we clear this DPS, this timer that we're gonna make, right? And we set it to 0.1. You can set it to whatever number you want. This is how often the DPS text is gonna get updated, right? I don't need to update it that often. Like, you can put it as every 0.5 seconds. It still won't matter, right? Depends how often you want to do it. And then here's what we call our functions, right? We get the subsystem, we get current combat DPS, and we pass in the ability system that we want to get the DPS for. On a single player game, this is how I get my ability system component. You can just do this and pass in the actor, right? This is the blueprint function library that does all of that stuff for me, right? And then, so this is my string formatter, right? It converts DPS to a string format, and then it passes it into the actual text. I can go over that right now, so I don't forget. So string details. This is a blueprint function library, and it's these two: damage to short string or damage to long string. And damage to short string, they're just, so if it's 1,000, it puts 1k. If it's 1,000,000,000, it puts 1b, and everything in between, right? I'll just go over it. And then damage to long string, it just puts commas in between where they should be. You can see right here. Takes damage patch into format string and put a comma. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 becomes 12, 3, 4, 5. That's all this formatters do. It's easier than doing all that logic in here. On meter updated. Another delegate. This is pretty much is called when total damage gets updated, right? You can see in the comments. And this gets called when the current session ends. So it displays the correct numbers. So if you a session, you can see the number, the DPS going down, but if you end the session, it will go to the correct DPS of when combat actually ended, instead of when it actually stopped. And then the last thing is show you, as you can see, the numbers are comma separated. Here I can turn this damage on, and now the K. So that's what the formatter does, right? It changes from comma separated to short form number. And that's it. If you have any questions, you pause the video and go over the code. And anything else, just put it in the comments. All right? See you later.